game number 2 as we get into the picks and bans. Is it enough time for this team to respond, or will they have to go fully back to the drawing boards? For now, Randozos will have the first pick.
And this is why Denial are currently the first place coming out of North America. You have to be able to play from behind and play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. They recognized that they were weak early. They decided, like, we're not going to contest our own speed. We're just going to go on the left-hand side. You take ours, we'll take yours, no problem. We'll meet you in the late game.
Exactly. So Randozos now, they're going to ban out the Ao Kuang. They don't want to pick it, and they certainly don't want Homiefe playing it.
A great respect ban. There was a lot of options as well, just besides the Ao Kuang. We know Homie can play a Thor. We know he can play a Susano as well. And now the respect ban, finally, a Bacchus ban. I love it.
You've been waiting so long, Toli.
In general, like, we look at Most Wanted in the console scene against Clow.
Yep.
He has so many ISIS games in general. He's played it, I think, coming from the spring split, he played it, or the summer split, he played it 7 games in a row. And nobody banned it away from him, and that's one reason that they kept winning was because of the early mid pressure that they had.
Well, last game the Vulcan was banned away. One thought was for the knockup, and moswal certainly has a banging Vulcan, so Randozos going to bring that in with the first pick, and Denial going to go with the Guan Yu. I think, and Denial thinks so as well. Guan Yu, one of the better picks in the SPL.
And now Randozos is going to have to figure out options to deal with the sustain from Guan Yu. Now, it didn't really work out too well for Randozos that last game, the Guan Yu. They had some options where they were putting pressure in the mid lane in a 5-on-4 scenario, but a great hold from Denial. Instead of going for the gold here, Randozos were trying to force the tier 1 tower. The Guan Yu sustain, you want to take that sustain into jungle team fights.
Standard Thor coming out from Mirage here. I'm excited. Thor is a character that I feel like is very one-size-fits-all. There'll never be a bad spot for Thor in the jungle, but other characters have seemingly creeped up as far as prominence is concerned, whether it's more damage, more control, or whatnot. But Thor, the old standard. And we've seen Mirage on the new characters like Nemesis and even Serket, but now on the classic Thor, I'm excited.
It's about setting up your Vulcan pick. First pick right off the bat from moswal. You have your Anvil of Dawn, your Tectonic Rift, and now you pick up a Sobek. I would have liked to seen Athena just to synergize a little better with this Vulcan, but either way, still a solid pick for the Sobek. You can contest objectives pretty well with lurking in the water.
Freya going to be banned out by the Randozos. Vetium had a fantastic game, and just another late game option for Denial to go.
Hu Yi as well taken away from Randozos. Now, this means that Vetium is very comfortable with playing almost anything because they're the ones with the next pick, and that's something that they could have potentially played if they wanted to.
Exactly. So not going to be the option this time around. We'll see where Denial are going to take their Hunter. I'm thinking maybe Kronos if it's not banned out here. We'll take a look if Vetium wants to play that character just yet. Ban coming down to the final ticker, and Randozos.
It's going to be the Kronos like you mentioned, but Soul is available. That's the last remaining magical hunter remaining. It's going to be the Raven this time for Benji. We saw what Whalrus was able to do with that Raven, and Benji is very comfortable with these aggressive gods. He's known to play more of this Raven style, sometimes as well as the Vamana when he knows he wants to wait towards that mid to late game, but it's going to be aggression out of the solo.
Ullr and Amaterasu are going to round things out for Randozos. I love the Ullr pick, even with Wowy. We've seen the substitute do very well. And again, if you're going to pick the Ullr, you're telling us that you're very confident in your own abilities. So certainly something that we're going to see there. Denial Esports, they're going to give their Hunter over to their Hunter player. Raijin will be the selection for Hurriwind. A little bit different seeing a standard composition.
Exactly like you mentioned, it's different. A lot of these teams have now been running Hunters in the mid lane trying to find the late game carry potential in all roles. Raijin, still a great late game carry potential. You can be aggressive if you want to with the Thunder Crash after you throw out the Raiju. You also have really good long range artillery setup to follow up after the Guan Yu aggression.
Excuse me, folks. Sorry about that. A little bit of a tickle in my throat, but we'll get things underway into game number 2. Randozos with their Thor selection, setting up moswal on that Vulcan. I loved the first time we got to see this character come out of moswal. Very accurate on the ultimate.
That's what you have to be as Vulcan. You have to also trust your own ultimate just to make sure that you're winning these mid to late game exchanges. You always have to worry about these globals. Now, we don't think of Vulcan as a global kind of ultimate, but at the same time, when you don't see it coming over a wall and you don't hear it, it's practically a global ultimate.
I mean, it's a global in the same way that Thor is this sort of semi-global presence, right? It's going to come all the way from A half rotation is all you really need for the Vulcan to make the impact, as opposed to a character like Agni or any of the traditional mid laners, not counting Neith, who actually have to walk all the way over to the lane to really say what's up. Vulcan can walk halfway through, walk over by the mid Harpies, and launch an ultimate that steals a Gold Fury. That alone is very, very valuable in a game where movement speed is extremely highly touted. Having to move less often or less distance, certainly something that moswal will take to the bank.
That's a different style that we're going to have this game compared to last. Last game was more about the burst between the Circuit and the Ao Kuang in the jungle. This time you have more mobility between the Susano and the Thor. You have your ultimate from Thor as well as a hammer, provides a lot of distance covered. Right,
and also helps out clear just a little bit as well. So we'll see how the Randozos fare with this more traditional composition than the interesting Circuit type stuff. Right-hand Harpies. Looks like they went the way of denial. They've got a 200 gold lead, really just from getting all the farm there in the jungle.
They were able to push out the soul lane and find the fire giant elementals for Benji. Great job taking advantage of the early game pressure from Ravana.
And also this Susano, certainly not a character to just take lightly in the early game. The pull just puts you in a bad spot a lot of the time, not something you want to deal with. Whalrus on the Amaterasu now, this time around. A little bit of a change.
It's the same spot that Benji was in last game at level 3, stuck under his tower, losing a little bit of gold. However, he's going to have to make an impact on this next level 4 wave. He has to be able to clear out the wave. It looks like Hurriwind was able to snag one of those, I think.
Yeah, it looks like a 1-for-1. You can see at least one of the Harpies on fire. That's going to be the Vulcan effect. The electrification, similar to Zeus, is the other one. But blinking forward, very aggressive play. First blood already, and that's the dynamic case of watching these two guys. Homiefe and Hurriwind always ready to make the play. Love these two character selections on these guys. The surprise, we're here. That's sort of the Homie Hurry, I would say, calling card. I mean, just that instantaneous. Homie says go, I've got to pull. Hurriwind says, all right, I've got a blink and a dash. We take him down. First blood comes very quick.
It was all about the patience from Denial. As soon as Randozos use their abilities to clear the wave, Denial immediately jump on the opportunity. Even if they don't find a kill, they're going to poke out both the mid and jungler to find those back right Harpies invade anyway. The fact that they found the kill on top of that is just extra.
And like I said, Randozos, we're playing okay. Their positioning was not terrible. Denial's ability to make that snap call made that positioning a little questionable.
And now in the dual lane, aggression as well from Denial. All 3 lanes are Denial's lanes at the moment. They're just being so aggressive. Playing under the tower line is Benji. Playing on the tower line is both Shadowq and Vetium. And now after that first blood, it's going to be another Fire Giant Elementals on the side of Denial.
And with all this pressure, like we said, a lot of times you'll see sort of a trade of the lanes where one lane gets pressured out, but the other team has the different lanes. That's expected. When you have all of this pressure, all of a sudden you run into issues. Randozos should expect to get their jungle invaded a lot, but Mirage with the turnaround kill. You can see moswal off the mark. Here's some help. Mirage misses the ultimate. Hurriwind absolutely should have died here, but a couple of missed opportunities, and Randozos going to take a little bit too long to take him down. 2 kills go the way of Randozos. Thankfully so. Thankfully so.
Just great jukes coming out, buying enough time for the rotation from Shadowq just to clean up the wave. Great response, though, overall from Randozos. They were able to find that early kill. Now, unfortunately, they took a little bit too long. They should have waited for the stun from Mirage's ultimate before moswal even decided to throw out their ultimate. You have to synergize between your middle and jungler.
I thought Hurriwind was going to get out. I was waiting for his Thunder Crash to come back up over the wall and see you later. So Mirage off the mark, but it doesn't matter because they get the kill anyway.
And they found those kills originally without using their 2 ultimates.
Right.
So whatever happened there, it's going to get responded now. Randozos looking for potential. Ooh, nice cripple onto Wubbn, preventing the pluck.
And that, you know, Randozos have been losing this lane pretty hard, the long lane. But with the Sobek, I expected a lot more aggression, honestly. A Sobek flip into Wowy's combo of Hail of Arrows and Bladed Arrow, that chunks down a player really hard. But instead, they spent a lot of time and energy focusing on shutting down the Tallow Assault out of Shadowq.
The problem is it's hard to actually find the stun onto the Tallow Assault because you can hide between your melee minions and the tail flip doesn't stop it. You have to find the pluck or the Ullr axe stun And that's kind of difficult because both of those get intercepted by those melee minions.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the Ullr axe done on top of the Guan, but no real aggression after that. And that's why Denial have been able to really push up and push up and push up on the left side. Mid lane, different story, however. That turret really helping out Randozos, able to push up the mid lane.
I love the wards coming from Denial on the bottom left mid Harpies, spotting also the Gold Fury. Now, finally, aggression onto the solo lane. Whalrus barely able to escape. No, hold that thought. Homiefe diving the tower.
Yeah, just understanding just how much damage he's able to take and deal out. So Homiefe finds another kill. That's going to be 2 for Denial's jungler, evening himself up with Mirage.
This is something that Mirage should have done the last game as the Shadowq, just to camp the Amaterasu, not allowing her to transition in that mid to late game form. Now Benji, he can keep being so aggressive. He already has a 1-level lead, and as Ravana, this is what you want to do, just to keep applying the pressure. Look for the invades on speed and blue as well.
Yeah, we always talk about these characters reaching their critical mass or getting, turning the on switch, right, when they get a certain level. Amaterasu's is 9. But here's the deal. If your other character, if their direct opponent is a higher level, well, it's just going to even things up rather than surge ahead. That's the game plan over here in the solo lane. Give Benji a lead so that when Whalrus' character gets better, it just evens things up instead of surging ahead. Mirage again over here, knowing he's got to defend his Amaterasu.
Rotation from Homiefe just to make sure there was no shenanigans. Gonna spot it out. Blue buff not responding quite yet. Because Mirage is poked out this heavily, though, it's Denial being aggressive.
Wowy taking the 1v1 versus Vetium. Not gonna find the stun. Goes right on back, but already losing a ton of HP. Those Astral Arrows dealing damage onto Wowy. Half HP for him. Whalrus being aggressed on. Dashing forward. Great stun. Coming out of Mirage without that stun. Probably a different situation there. Maybe even a dead player. But
Wowy getting poked out, having to retreat. Wubbn making the rotation. Off the mark is Mirage, and now Shadowq finding the stun with Hurriwind from a distance.
And Hurriwind gonna blink forward, get 1 kill, push 1 player out. Susano finds a good knockup, and a backfire out of the Vulcan gonna deal damage, but it's Benji who takes down Whalrus with a punch to the back of the head.
And finding those kills allows the speed buff to be started by Denial. They're not looking to be aggressive and invade, however.
Wowy finds the purification, now it's the 1v1. Up in the sky goes Vetium, he's gotta wait 2 shots. 1 more, not going to find the kill. Looking for the comeback is not going to be Ullr. I thought we might saw the jump in totally, but Wowy going to play it safe.
Wubbn has to be super careful. Jetstream was still onto Wubbn after the pluck, finding another kill after the speed buff invade. Great plays from Denial, utilizing their player advantages, invading the jungle.
And this is experience and just good old-fashioned Denial aggression coming out from the Orange Dogs. I mean, this is sort of old-school Denial where they go for the early plays, the early invades, the early aggro, and that's what we're seeing here on display. And it's working wonders against Randozos.
Can't ban out Homie's Guan. You're just going to give him something else that's just as strong, if not stronger, because now Denial, they're playing towards the early game. They have Benji on the Ravana, already taking advantage of Whalrus, 2 levels ahead. Homiefe's been able to make the plays with these pulls so impactful, and Hurriwind from a distance, we saw that last engagement just connecting on so many of his ultimates and cleaning up with that Thunder Crash.
In all honesty, at a much more basic level, what I'm seeing here in my eyes, and I want your take on this, I'm seeing better team smite out of Denial in general. Randozos are making some strong plays, right? Mirage and moswal, even though they were a little bit off the mark, we saw some good stuff out of them. Whalrus is doing relatively fine over there in the solo lane, but Denial are grouping up and playing as a unit a little bit better than Randozos are, and I think that's what's allowing them to find the early 3,000 gold lead.
They're just, like you mentioned, it's better team play, but it's also better individual play. Vetium able to bully out Wowy, finding a wave just to catch up. There was a lot of shared experience between Shadowq and Vetium, which is why there's a 1-level lead in the support category for Denial, but then a 1-level deficit on the hunter position. That's something that Shadowq really likes to do, always be sharing the farm wherever he can find it, whether it's middle or duo.
And it's doing wonders. It's making a real impact for Shadowq here. Wubbn outside of the lane, making his way to mid lane. Whalrus in a little bit of trouble, but Hurriwind up in the sky.
Mirage just trying to zone out the members from Denial, making sure that Whalrus would escape safely. Still level 10, trailing behind Benji. He has to find ways to find the farm without forcing team fights, but it's very difficult because Benji, he wants to be aggressive the whole time.
Raijin can't go to the sky. It's probably a good thing. I said Hurriwind up to the sky before when it was Mirage, thinking he was still playing the ROM. Probably a very good thing because Hurriwind has the tools he needs. Just goes right to the ultimate. And again, the Hurry Homie combo. Loving what they've been able to add to Denial.
And that's great mechanics out of Homiefe. He used a pull as the hammer was coming out, preventing the teleport, finding the kill. Yet again, just poking out Wubbn. They're not even going to commit to the kill. They're applying pressure because they know the speedboat's about to respawn. Benji still having a 2-level lead. They can easily maybe bully out Whalrus and then get this tier 1 tower.
Denial looks like a great team this time around, making the play on the solo lane here. 3 players deep. There's the dash away from Whalrus. He'll be safe around his tower. Wubbn going to show some respect by playing defense as well. But Denial, they look like a much different team this split. Earlier on, you know, in the spring split, there was they had some different jungler choices, a lot of different directions. Some of the players kind of look distracted as we come in. Everybody seems to be on the same page. I remember speaking to Vetium recently, and he said that, you know, fall split certainly he's just very focused on winning and wants to be a part of it. And I think the team making the plays in the offseason certainly helped.
Nice rotation from Randozos. No ultimate available for Benji, but rotating back is Homiefe, finding the kill under the tower.
There's a flip onto the solo lane. Might be trouble for Benji, but Homiefe able to find the kill. A nice juke. Homie not going to find the kill. Mirage finally taking out Benji. Benji so slippery. A big part of what made Denial and even Enemy going back further very successful was Benji. Great solo laner, really coming back into it.
He's definitely matured a lot throughout Season 2. Homiefe used the Purification and Hurriwind. It was all a bait to allow this rotation to happen. The drums coming out. Gonna find Wubbn. Not enough damage to secure Mirage, but they're gonna be contempt after getting that kill, finding a wave in response. Shadowq covering mid lane. This is what you have to do. Have these rotations, and now moswal making the rotation, but in the hunter position, one more snipe, and that's gonna be it for Wowy.
And there it is. Vetium finds that one more snipe. Wowy falls down for the 9th kill in total for Denial Esports. And again, a reinvigorated Vetium here in our fall split, just looking like he's back in pure form, made a name for himself on Enemy, and then kind of had a lull, in my opinion, in the interim, but back. Really back to it. You can just watch the couple of games that we've seen, and he just looks like he's back on Enemy, this prime form Vetium. And like I said, you combine prime Vetium with Benji, who also seems back at it again, whatever the case may be. And then the Homiefe Hurriwind combination. This Denial team has just had new life breathed into it, not just by the 2 players, jungle and mid, but also by the old players themselves. Everybody just seems refreshed and ready to fight. Denial, they were a very middle of the pack team last go around. Now, they're #1 at the moment, and they certainly look like they can stay there for a while.
They've been middle of the pack for quite a while throughout Season 0, 1, 2, wherever. And now, because of these roster additions like you mentioned, they just seem more focused, whether or not they're going for a late game composition, early game, if they've been making it work. This is the first time this whole game they've even forced out the Gold Fury.
And still they're just looking for the fight. They want Wubbn out of position. They find him, and great wall by the jungler. If he played for Denial, separates Wubbn from the rest of the team. But Denial looking now for the objective. Gold Fury going to go down, and Denial find themselves up 6K. Might make it more with some kills. Wubbn in trouble, falling down to Vetium. Here's the chase. Knockup and Sanctuary are good for the moment, but not good for the long run. Hurriwind picks up another, and one more kill is on the menu. And will it be taken? Yes, it will. Homiefe takes him down, and Wowy will sit out.
And Mirage got bullied out mid. That's 3-player advantage that is dead, but without Mirage, that's going to be a lot of members from Denial getting this tier 1 in mid. However, Whalrus at least responding in the solo lane, trying to get his team a little bit of extra something.
Yeah, like how you said, at least. At least they're able to get the tower. Split push, hooray. Denial, on the other hand, they'll get 3 kills. They'll get a mid tower. They'll get a red buff. They'll get a speed buff. Down from the sky comes Thor, but he's surrounded. There's nothing to do. Mirage. Just a Mirage. He's gone. Baker's dozen for Denial.
He thought that he was going to be able to steal the blue buff in time, find the hammer away. Unfortunately, the mobility from Denial is there, but they don't have much mana. Now Whalrus coming back, using the ultimate, going to force out a nice body block from Shadowq, prevented Vetium from getting hit.
Yeah, wonderful play. Just separating his teammate a little bit. And those are the instincts that make Shadowq still I don't want to say still relevant. He's a great player. That brings his relevancy. But Shadowq's still one of those guys that are always in the conversation. When you want it, when you're drafting like an all-star team or like a fantasy team, Shadowq's always going to come up because those types of instincts and those types of plays, they've been on display forever. I don't think when it comes to who's the best, well, that's a loaded conversation. Not sure if Shadowq winds up there, but he's always going to be in the conversation as far as a support you'd like on your team.
I would call him very passionate and very calculating in every little maneuver that he does. In the solo lane, Whalrus getting caught out of position, nowhere to go after the root. Benji getting credited with the kill. 2-level lead for him. Still going to be aggressive now. This tier 1 tower in the solo lane should fall with the 35-second respawn timer.
And if Shadowq's the brains of this denial long lane. Not to say that Vetium is not intelligent, but he's certainly the brawn of it, man. He's going to just take the fight. Look at this. He gets ganked, and he's going to go for it anyway. Denial, 2 against 4. Vetium still ready to fight. And he knows that the rotation out of his mid lane's coming, and you can even see Homiefe around the backside. He's got help as well. Denial, 3 in front, 2 on the back. They're going to push into the tower. There's the stop. Homiefe has a good positioning, and he's going to take down moswal. Vetium gets Mirage as well. Jumping away is Wowy, but there's the tornado. It's going to be immune as far as the knockup, but the damage is done. Wubbn's gone. There's Homiefe, and everybody on Denial looking for the kills. Pull back. Wubbn low, still alive. Taking a long time to just deal with things. Meanwhile, tier 2 tower still up. Denial looking for the kills, takes down the support, and the tier 2 tower ready to crumble.
That play brought to you by the death on Whalrus. The rotation from Benji with his teleport, forcing a 5-on-4. The collapse from Homie and Benji underneath the tier 1 tower is something that Denial trusts in their teammates, and that's why we saw the aggression from Shadowq and Vetium 2v4. They had the rotations from the other 3 members,
Absolutely.
and they trusted every single member of their team to follow up.
Yeah, I mean, just a beautiful play of positioning coming out from Denial there. 2-on-4 was really 4-on-4 once they knew that the other 2 players were, because Denial knew that the rotation was coming. And then the way they positioned themselves, 3 in the back, or 3 in the front, 2 in the back, able to make that sort of sandwich happen. That's exactly what Denial want to do there and push themselves up. 10,000 gold in the lead. And keep in mind, it's with a single Gold Fury. This lead has just been from raw dominance solely.
17 minutes in the game with this kind of a lead. It's very difficult to think about ways to come back into this game if you're the Randozos. You're relying on Denial to really make a misplay in terms of botching up Fire Giant, maybe finding a Vulcan steal with an ultimate from a distance, and then on top of that, you have to find someone out of position, isolated, but Mirage, he's not been able to do that.
Yeah, it's really got to find the picks at this point in the game for sure. Whalrus looks like he's going to be on the receiving end of a pick. He's able to find a way up there. Wowy trying to do what he can, but Benji already taking out Whalrus. Wubbn in trouble. Vetium takes out the support with seemingly no fight whatsoever. Denial able to take out 2 already, and now focus on the tower.
Benji doing a great job zoning. Tier 2 tower is immune. Vetium, the tier 1 is still up.
You know what? I missed that one too, Vetium. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Hunter instead turning around to the tier 1 tower.
Now finding the tier 2, a nice little cripple. Mirage has nowhere to go. Force use the Sanctuary. The ultimate from Hurriwind doesn't matter. moswal, however, finds Hurriwind because you're slow during that ultimate, so great recognition.
Yeah, just taking advantage of one of the disadvantages of Hurriwind's character. So instead, the damage goes the other direction. And again, this time I think Vetium realizes not going to go for the Phoenix, goes right for the tier 2 tower, but it's already down. Homiefe doing the struggle work, able to take it out. 4 kills to 20. Randozos on the bad side of that one, unfortunately. 18.5 on the clock, and Randozos find themselves trailing by 12,000 gold. You know, game 1 was the tale of compositions, where Randozos comp, they played it very well. 20 minutes later, the late game composition sort of came and won the game, and Randozos played a strong game, and they did not execute their composition well. This time around, I think it's a vastly different story.
Denial has just been on point with every little decision that they've been making individually and as a team, which is why we mentioned before they are currently the top of the North American standings. And look at this, they're still not putting pressure on the Fire Giant because even though they have such a lead, it's not really late game form for them item-wise. At 52,000 gold team, you're normally looking for that 70 to 75,000 when you have those 6 item slots to be able to really close out a game.
And so the second Gold Fury is certainly going to help Denial do that even more so. Gives them about 2,000 gold on top of it, so able to push themselves even further ahead in the lead.
And still invading red buff. Benji just putting pressure on the soul lane, finding the wards aggressively, and now this is a situation where they could collapse on tier 2 mid if they wanted to, or force an engagement around the fire. They have so many options available.
One of the largest leads in our young season here. Denial taking advantage of it. Do they want to go for the objective or just take the fight? Totally looks like they want to go for the latter there. A couple of shots being tossed towards Wubbn. But they're now going to start this Fire Giant, but don't be surprised when they leash it as soon as the opportunity is available.
Trying to find somebody out of position. Shadowq, I like his build also, having the Genji's guard just for the MP5 with the breastplate. Now finally engage as Mirage into the sky, forcing Hurriwind ultimate.
And he's going to try and find a land. Somebody can't find anybody. Lands on his own team. Wobbin now trying to find the exit, and Homiefe punishes Mirage for the off-the-mark ultimate. Denial jumping forward, finds Wobbin with a couple of punches. Homiefe puts him down with the sword, and Hurriwind just pummels damage onto the guys of Randozos. 3 left. Wowy in trouble. Jumping forward, Denial surging up this right side tower. Hurriwind gets one. Homiefe gets a double kill, off of the help from Hurriwind. And now Denial on the right-hand side, looking for the Phoenix. They'll take the win. 20 minutes on the clock with 35 seconds as well. Denial on the good side of 2 games in a row.
It was a great play overall. That last team fight, unfortunately, Randozos, they were pulling for a miracle. It was a last-ditch effort. They overextended for Hurriwind. Even if they found the kill, they took too much damage in response just because of how much in the lead Denial was. And they were just so patient with playing off of their lead. They didn't force Fire Giant up until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw of Denial was just, like we said, game 1 was a little bit more of sort of a battle of the draft, right? And how the cookie crumbled. Just pure efficiency coming out of Denial in game 2. They just played strong smite. Very rare can you say, I mean, these guys were just better. But I think Denial in game 2 just executed their game plan, and Randozos really just never could keep up.
It was all about, honestly, their individual play between the side lanes, where we saw Vetium being a bully to Wowy, and then we also saw the rotation from Homiefe, allowing Benji to really snowball in that second game specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Homiefe is such a huge acquisition for Denial Esports here in our offseason, and watching what he's been able to do here, he's got an 18 KDA. He played both Ao Kuang in game number 1 and then Susano in game 2. And look at this, just multi-kills abound on the Ao Kuang, really making it the Homiefe show here. And then on the Susano, really helped set up his teammates in the majority of the early and mid game, and then late game found some kills himself.
He knows the pressure that Randozos is even backpedaling away from that Vulcan ultimate. Just great discipline. Even after the aggression, he knows when to peel it back a little bit. Yeah,
fantastic player. He's been a wild acquisition, as I keep saying, for the Denial guys. And, well, let's see if somebody else agrees with me. Shadowq, the captain and longtime support for Denial Esports, on the line. Congratulations on your wins, Shadow. How you doing, bud?
Pretty good, thanks, FDOT. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, especially after watching you guys. I mean, Toli and I sort of acknowledge the fact that Denial have been a very sort of middle of the pack team, historically speaking, as far as the SPL is concerned. But with some changes to both your existing lineup and adding 2 players, you guys look completely different. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
Oh yeah, definitely. Picking up Homie and Hurry has been like amazing for us. Our roster is the best on paper it's ever been.
I completely agree, and what I said before, not just Homie and Hurry, they've been a fantastic addition to your team, but also you 3 guys, Vetium, Benji, and you to a lesser extent. You guys seem reinvigorated. This looks like the same names, the same faces, but you guys look different. What's different this fall split versus the past?
Well, if we have like better teammates, we perform better too. So we look better if our whole team is better as a whole.
Makes sense. It's always a team game, not the individuals. Totally, you have any questions for Shadow?
Yeah, so going into the picks and bans for game 1 and game 2, it seemed there was a clear-cut strategy where you were more focused on the late game specifically for game 1, whereas game 2, you guys were just aggressive right off the bat. Is this going into your mindset during picks and bans, or is this just something that naturally developed as the game began?
Yeah, we're definitely thinking about it going in. For example, game 1, we had, I believe, the Freya Ao Kuang, I think, and that's obviously a much more late game oriented comp, so we had to play it slow at the beginning, and we even struggled with some fights for a while because our comp just gets much better later. Whereas in game 2, we just have pressure everywhere for so long in game 1, and Guan's so good from ahead.
One of the things that I've noticed you guys doing, sort of top-down strategy, which I always give you a ton of credit for, Shadow, is once upon a time, Denial was known as just sort of this early game team. You go for the early invades, and that's sort of your team brand. Now that's certainly still there, but you guys seem to have expanded your sort of arsenal of plays and approaches to the game. How do you feel about that statement? And what have you guys done to really take a more strategic approach to the game of Smite?
Okay, well, first off, I miss invades. I think they're really fun. It's just so much harder to get them off now successfully because of like how the game works, especially with Red Pup being out of the game and people are picking gods that are just safer, and everything makes it just harder to invade.
Right.
On a side note, though, we're like a stronger team. We don't have to win through cheese anymore. We can just play the game out and we can win team fights because we know that we're strong right now.
Excellent, man. Very well said. And as far as everything else is concerned, before we let you give your shout-outs, is there anything about your team specifically that you want people to know about the season going forward?
We're going to win.
Awesome, man. Shout-outs, friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
Yeah, shout out to Razor. We just got a whole bunch of cool gear from them. And shout out to Loot Crate. We just got one of those, so that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shadowq. Congratulations on your win again, and good luck in the rest of the season. That's the support and captain Shadowq for Denial Esports. You can see it in the he gave a very political answer in that, hey, our teammates are better, so we become better players. But I really believe there's something different there. I can even hear it in his voice almost. These guys, #1 in North America, 9 points to Soar's 4. Of course, Soar will have the opportunity to bring that up as they play Eager later on today. But the guys in Denial just seem more content with everything that they're doing.
Yeah, just a hilarious interview from a hilarious player, Shadowq. Got to give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do, transitioning Denial from stage to stage to stage to where they are right now, top of the leaderboards.
We're seeing a lot of the old guard of Smite, right? Whether they leave the game or they're sticking around, we're seeing a lot of these transitions. I think Shadowq is making the transition into late game Smite, if you will, very successfully. Him and his team, Denial, certainly surging forward. We've got 3 more games coming to you right about now, so stay tuned. We'll bring you one more match in just a few.